The global online study conducted by YouGov has concluded that 24% of young teens in South Africa are victims of cyberbullying. Today we are conversing with Dr. Symington, who will elaborate furthermore on the different aspects of bullying. Thank you very much for granting us this interview once again. And I wanted to ask you, what are some types of bullying that happened in or around the schools for youngsters?
Okay, so we have a couple of types of bullying that we experience in our schools in South Africa. And so the first one I think is the aggressive bully that we all know. It's usually the shoving, the pushing, using my body to physically intimidate or to hurt someone intentionally. And so that's the first type of bullying we do see is the aggressive bully. The second type of bully we see is the passive bully, and we often see this. It's the most prevalent type of bullying that we experience. So what is the passive bully? It's the group of bullies. It's actually a group of kids that intimidate another or another group. And 87% of the times we do see that kind of trend in our schools in terms of bullying in a group. It's not just me name calling, it's the group actually intimidating. A third type of bullying we experience is reactive bullying, which often happens in our primary schools. I bully because I've been bullied. So I'm reacting, I'm responding to my power being taken away through exerting dominance over another, because ultimately that bullying is about a power dominance imbalance. And so we often see it with the smaller kids who can't emotionally regulate that imbalance of power. And we also then, of course, find cyberbullying, which we experience more and more in our schools, which is a new field that we need a lot of researchers to jump into and give us some insight into. But yeah, cyberbullying basically is bullying over the use of technology, whether it's the internet, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's communication platform, even Facebook messages. There's so many different electronic platforms of communication that kids use to intimidate the other, even in the form of YouTube videos. Is it physical? Is it verbal? Interestingly enough, when I go to the schools and I chat with the kids, I had some focus group with some of the kids as well, which is very valuable to actually hear from the kids what they experience. What do you say bullying is? And a lot of the time, it's gestures. Not even the words, not even the physical bumping and hitting one another. They know that's bullying. But what's interesting to me is they talk about looks. The girls always tell them, man, they're scared for me. They're scared for me. Then I know. And it's kind of that type of information you get from the students. It's an attitude towards me that tells me that I'm excluded. It's an attitude towards me that tells me I'm not good enough. And then that gets combined with the shove. And that gets combined with hate. And that gets combined with the comment on Facebook. Or trolling me on the internet. Okay? And so that's why I'm saying it's not even just one action that we can pinpoint. It's sometimes almost a configuration of actions that constitute the bullying. So one child will bully in many ways.
Mandy, thank you very much for granting us this interview. As a professional, you know exactly, well, as a counselor, you know how to deal or how to cope with bullying. Can you expand and give us a little more details on what the importance is on understanding bullying?
Bullying is when somebody is being disempowered, and who they are, their self-identity, their self-esteem is being robbed of the potential because somebody else is choosing to impose their will upon them. Bullying is also emotionally damaging somebody that leaves scars for years and years to come.
Have you been bullied yourself?
I think I've had the female bullying of exclusivity. I'm not part of the group, the in-group, emotional labeling, name-calling, that sort of thing. My generation wasn't a cyberbullying generation.
All the bullying experts agree on one thing, that bullying is an imbalance of power, that someone's trying to have power over you. They want to see you lose, and they want to win. You see, the experts say it's an imbalance of power. Let me put it this way. Let's say a bully says, I hate your guts. I hate your guts. If you respond out of anger, shut up! The bully loves that. Never. I hate you. Don't care. You're hurting my feelings. That's the point, stupid. You see, the more upset you get, the more angry angry you get, the more fun they have. But what would happen if we were resilient? Everybody say resilient. What if we were emotionally strong? Everybody say strong. What if we were mentally tough? Everybody say tough. Then no matter what the hater says, you wouldn't care. I hate your guts. That's nice. You smell like body odor. You're nasty. Thanks for the information. Your face is ugly. You have the face of an angel, sweet cheeks. Okay, maybe that was too far. But how awesome would it be if you, the victim of relentless teasing and taunting or bullying, decided to not get upset, to have tough skin, to allow the hateful, mean words of others bounce right off you and not care what the other person says? See, some people say, well, Brooks, doesn't a person have to have a high sense of self-esteem to be able to do what you're asking? Don't they have to have, self-confidence or a high sense of self-worth? No, they don't. If you explain to students that bullying is nothing more than a game about winning and losing, and that the way that they can win is by not getting upset, and the bully will lose. And when people lose, they don't like playing the game, so they'll leave you alone. When you explain that to a student, it's simple, it's concrete. It's not abstract, it's not ethereal, it's not complex, it's simple. Don't get upset no matter what they say. I'm not saying it's easy, but in logic, it's very simple. Now, it's important to know this. When I say bullying, I'm only talking about when someone's hurting your feelings. If you can understand bullying in terms of someone hurting your feelings, then the solution is very simple. But some people think bullying is more complex than hurting your feelings. They think bullying is like violence. Let me make it very clear. When I say bullying, I'm not talking about when someone punches your face. I actually believe that, you should get upset if someone punches your face. That's not bullying. That's called assault and battery. Okay? Don't just stand there. It's all good. No, dude. If someone straight up punches your face, get upset. Why? Because that's a crime. That's not bullying. It's a crime.
How do we save a child from being bullied?
I think the most important thing as professionals and as parents is to be aware of what bullying looks like. And I think that's one of the reasons that today has been so great, just realizing what the extent of the problem is, just having your eyes opened as to how it happens and being aware of what children are being exposed to. I think their information really is key in equipping the parent to protect their child and feeling competent to navigate with their children through that space, just to become aware of how to identify that as well. So I think the biggest thing is information for parents, teachers, professionals to know how to spot this problem and how to help a child through it.
And also, can you expand a little bit more on the fine line between bullying and abuse?
I think it's a tough definition. You could look at kind of legal definitions there in terms of who has power and who has the ability to actually have kind of better information or to be more informed. So for example, if an adult is acting on a child, then you want to take that question really seriously, and you want to look at what the law of the country actually delineates as being a violation of somebody else's rights. You also want to look at the harm that's being done. I think bullying focuses on more of an emotional spectrum, and emotional intimidation and emotional manipulation. Whereas when you're looking at abuse, there's a lot of power dynamics involved, and it can often be physically harmful to the other person. So it's a combination of things, and I think the line is not easy to draw. I think what's important is that both of these situations are very serious. So it's not that bullying is less serious than abuse in terms of the long-term effects of an adult. So you want to take it seriously, and you also want to inform yourself as to even some of the legal consequences that your behavior can be having that you might not realize if you are giving it a lighter definition in the law. You know.
So what are some red flags to look for if our kids are being bullied at school or cyberbullied? Are there any red flags?
Yes, I do think teachers and parents can track academic performance. Often, when the child is experiencing emotional trauma, you'll see it, and it results in their grades and in their marks. A child that usually performs at a certain level, suddenly they drop. Teachers can also see sometimes that they exclude themselves from activities. They are socially withdrawn more than normal. So it's a change in their behavior. We also see when kids are very private on their phones, you're not allowed to check their phone, you're not allowed to see, they try and hide the phone away. Often that's also a good indication. We also see kids with a more depressed mood, sometimes more anxious. And then the big thing that I usually pick up there's bullying is when there's school refusal suddenly. Children that don't want to go to school, they've always loved school, now suddenly they don't want to go to school and they fake a headache or they fake a tummy ache. So yeah, some of those are good indications that there might be something going on.
I think just to be aware of that the consequences of bullying is not just around academic performance or trying to get your child to go to school or making them upset now. I think as a professional I've seen that adults who are struggling with many things, addictions, relationship problems, marital problems, mental health illnesses, a lot of this stuff can be traced back to not just the family of origin, but peer rejection as a child or as an adolescent, and to realize that the consequence on the identity of someone who becomes an adult can be huge in terms of how they feel adequate themselves, how they feel rejected, or how they're able to feel loved by other people, and to realize that the consequences on society as a whole are large because of that. So that's the seriousness with which to take the problem, I think, is what I'd emphasize.